Okay, I think this is my final attempt at a short. Took a really nice one on Friday, which I'll go over later in this video, but right now I'm in, this is not exactly an incredibly high probability trade, but the market has been coming down very hard, and we pulled back to yesterday's VWAP, Friday's VWAP, volume weighted average price, which is the average price of the previous day, volume weighted. It's the previous day's close, the RTH close, which is at 2:30 Eastern. We've got very high volume trading up into this high. Climax churn bar into the high. We get a pullback, and then we go back up on 2 back-to-back churn bars, which is also volume divergence on the 1 minute. And now we're coming down. So once it started coming down a little bit, and then it pulled back a little bit in here, then I finally got in short with a stop just a little bit behind the VWAP. And now it's come down pretty strong, but we are down to the bottom of this area on the 240-minute chart. Now this is, this doesn't look like your typical bottom, so I doubt this is the low, but we are running into some support here, so a potential bounce is probable. It's likely. It could just come crashing down through it, but at any rate, once it comes down a little bit further, I'm gonna get out of this short trade that I'm in. So I'm expecting it to come down a bit more, maybe down to here, just break that low and then turn back up. We'll see what happens, but once we take out this low, then I'll be thinking about getting out of this short. Well, I decided to hold it a little bit longer, and it's finally coming down to the target here on the 15-minute chart. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get out right there on volume divergence.
Order pending.
On the 1 minute, let's tighten that up a little bit. I'll go ahead and get out right there. See if that can get hit.
Fib line touch.
Which is also the bottom of the trend channel on the 5-minute chart. Okay, and we have volume divergence there at the area, so that's an obvious exit for me, and it didn't quite fill, so let's see if I can get out right there. I'll leave it right there.
Order filled.
There we go.
Order canceled.
So pretty awesome trade. Okay, so let's go over the trade on Friday, because that was a pretty killer trade. By the way, we do have a fib confluence zone down here at 40, so it may end up coming down a bit further, but I would imagine we get some kind of retracement from here before it comes down. Okay, so let's start with the usual, starting with the weekly. You can see on the weekly we have broken, this is the continuous contract, see the pound pound dash pound pound, and we have broken these lows now finally. Okay, so we have a 5-wave pattern here. Okay, but on the monthly continuous contract, we still have not taken out this low here. Okay, so we do have room to come down. The 61.8 is here at about 37. Okay, so we could potentially come down quite a bit further, but I would imagine, being as we did have this really strong push up, we will probably get some kind of attempt to move higher in here at some point, because we are at the bottom of the channel here. Let me show you on the daily chart. Okay, this is the the merge back adjusted contract using the RTH session. This is the regular trading hours. Okay, so I've connected from low to low, and we're breaking through that trend line now. So we will probably get an attempt to push higher this week over a period of at least a couple of days, because we've been coming down really hard for a long time now. And the short covering rally from this is probably going to be very fast and very strong. And I would imagine we could come back at least to this high, back to about 43, possibly even coming back to about 45 before we make that next leg lower. Here's a 1440 minute contract with a continuous contract. Sorry, 1440 minute. So it's showing the full 24-hour day as a daily chart. 1440 minutes, 1440 minutes in a day. So it's showing the full 24-hour session, and connecting from low to low gives us a low down here. So, you know, have we bottomed out on that trend line on the daily chart? Or are we going to try to come down further down to this area, which is about 38? Okay, so maybe we'll come down straight to that and then get the bounce back up a little bit before coming even lower. Maybe this will be a very strong low if we come down here. But I would imagine we will be finding support in here very soon, over the next day or two, couple of days maybe. We'll just have to wait and see. But when you look at the 240-minute chart here, we are now, okay, wow, yeah, we've got the, it's already incredibly high volume, and there's the new bar that just started just now. Okay, so yeah, we have made a strong move down to support here from multiple channels. So this could potentially be a low in here. Maybe not a significant low, but strong enough to give us a push back 100 or 200 ticks, you know, maybe back up to break this high, possibly even breaking this high. And you can see we have found support here now, and we're turning back up. Okay, maybe that's the low, maybe it's not, but we definitely had very strong volume divergence there. So that exit was a perfect exit. Would have been nice to have the order sitting there at the area, but, well, you saw the exit. So anyhow, let's go back to this trade here. So what I was doing when I shorted on Friday is I was waiting for a move back to this area on the 15-minute chart right here. Okay, so what I did was connect from low to low here, from this low to this low, and it drew the first auto line from this high, and then it split it, updated to here, and then updated to here. And I was waiting to get up to that area, which is also the 61.8 retracement there, you see? So I was waiting to get back to that area, and of course you can see we've come down to that trend line there, which is what I was trying to trade down to. I wasn't sure if it was going to make it, but I just trailed my stop down. Had plenty of room, obviously. It didn't retrace very much at all, and then just made it down to the target, okay? Which is also the negative 100% expansion of this move, okay? So right where that 100% meets that trend line is where I just exited. All right, but this was the main entry Friday, okay? And that area on the 5-minute is the RTH, the pivot points created from the RTH session, 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. That is
Median line touch.
the midpoint of the prior day. That's the CP, the central pivot. It's the VWAP, average price of the previous day, and the pivot point. Okay, so you have a tight little range there between the pivot point, the central pivot, and the VWAP, and we have the upper median line intersecting that area there. Okay, and we get a climax into that high, breaking above yesterday's close, running into the pivot point, the VWAP, the central pivot, the upper median line, and of course the downtrend channel on the 15-minute here. All right, and on the 1 minute it was volume divergence right here. Let me just show that. You see? Right there, volume divergence at the area. Okay, and we didn't quite make it back to the top of the channel. We made it to the top of the channel here on a climax churn bar, very extreme volume, extreme spike. Okay, and then we pull back a little bit, go back up, break that high just barely on volume divergence right into that area on the 5-minute, the 15-minute, and now look at the RTH chart on the 15-minute. And this is how it all comes together right here. Okay, so I've created a trend channel from the low here to the low right here, and that gives us the lower median line there. So it's an area on the 15-minute ETH 24-hour chart. It's an area on the 15-minute RTH chart, which is showing just the day session, just the pit session. Okay, and on the volume profile, oh, I'm sorry, that was the area that it retraced from on Thursday. Okay, that was the high on Thursday. I actually traded up to that high. I got stopped out here just barely to the tick, and then got back in and had a nice little long trade out of this, expecting to move back up to that high. This is where I got short on Friday, right here, and that's a ledge here on the 15-minute chart, and you can see that more clearly right here. So as we are coming back, we've gapped down Friday morning, all right, we gapped down here and immediately started coming back up. When we come back up, you can see this distribution right here. You have a ledge right there at about 41.41. You see that? That ledge? That's where we pull right back to on this chart. And then we come on down. If I were to draw the distribution of this swing, the profile of this swing, you can see we have a little distribution right here. See that? And that's where we pulled right back to, at this area here. Okay? And then if I drew a distribution from here for this swing, you can see we had quite a bit of volume on this bar occurring right in this area, and we have that little ledge right there. So this is kind of the top of this little distribution right in here that we pulled back to on Friday. Okay, the volume profile is a little bit tricky. If this is confusing, don't worry about it. This is just one other thing that I use to find areas of potential support and resistance. Okay, and then my exit on Friday was the bottom of this channel that I had drawn from here, from the low. It's actually the bottom of the trend line. Okay, from the low here to the low here, and then again even back to this low, drawing a ray to this low here. All right, we've got two trend lines coming together right down here. So I shorted 3 contracts right here, exited one here,
Median
and
line
then
touch.
exited the other 2 right there, and then we turn back up. Okay, so you can't see the trade that I've taken tonight because this is the RTH chart. So now when we look at the 576, that's also volume divergence on the 576. You can see the spike in the volume right here. We've got the bearish divergence, very high volume per second. You can see momentum is waning. And we have the 61.8 retracement of this entire move down. And then of this move up here, we have the 78.6 extension. So we have a confluence zone there on volume divergence. So, I mean, everything was coming together for a short there. And then my exit was way down here. Okay, I took one off there. When it turned back up, looked like it was possibly going to get a strong move back up. I had my stop, I think, behind this high. And then it came down lower. And then once it turned up a little bit, I went ahead and got out there. If we look at that on the 144 tick, just at the entry, here's my entry tonight. I just exited here, and then the entry on Friday was right here, also on volume divergence. So just a great entry there. And once it topped out and then started turning back down a little bit, I went ahead and shorted market. I had market order rather than a limit in because I didn't want to miss the move. And then I had a stop just barely behind this. Let's see, I think it was about a 8 tick stop, 34. Yeah, about 8 ticks. And I ended up making, gosh, I don't know, I think it was over 3,700 bucks on Friday. Let's see. Yeah, it was about 150 tick, 140 ticks, something like that, on 3 contracts. So pretty good. And just to show you the hourly, we haven't talked about the hourly yet. So connecting from high, let's just delete all of this off and I'll start fresh. Connecting from the high here to the high here gives us an area right there as well. You see that? The upper median line. And that's where I shorted and then got out down here. So we still have room down to the bottom of the channel on the hourly. And that's probably where it's going to come down to. I would say probably make it down to 39 before we see a strong low. You can see the volume. I mean, this is looking good for a low to be put in right in here. So if we get another bar strong down to this low and we get some very high relative volume and relative density, then that's going to be looking good for a potentially very strong low. Okay, and then we'll probably get a massive short covering rally out of that low, I would expect, because we've been coming down so hard over the past several weeks. Look at this. I mean, we've been coming down so strong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, over 2 months. Now, on the weekly chart, that's also about 38. So we've got multiple areas coming together at about 38. So maybe we'll make it down to 38 and then see a really big rally out of this. And just to show you the exit on the 5-minute, we made it down to S3. Okay, and then that final bar was an extreme spike in relative volume on the 5-minute and a climax churn bar at almost 500% normal volume. Okay, so very large amount of volume, and that's what took me out of the trade. We made it down to S3, very high volume, and of course we were extremely oversold on the VWAP.
Median line touch.
We were extremely oversold here on the VWAP, and then it just kind of went sideways. And then this is where I should have been out, these 2 churn bars right here. But I was waiting, thinking it would possibly come down a little bit further, and then when I saw this big reversal bar here, I went ahead and got out on a limit order here. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not the low of the day. That's the first exit. That's where I took 1 contract off. Should have taken that contract off right here. Okay, but then we come down and make it down to the 2nd standard deviation band here. That's where I should have exited, right there on that bar. But I was trying to squeeze a little bit more out of it and ended up giving back about, doesn't look like much, but that's about 10 ticks. But these are, you know, pretty large bars because of such a strong move down on Friday. Like I said, I think it was about 150 ticks. And of course we end the move on volume divergence here, and then turn back up strong, back up to the VWAP, the volume weighted average price for the day. Current day volume weighted average price. This is the 2500 tick. You can see the end of this move was also on an extreme spike in relative volume on the 2500 tick. It's just a random number. It's just a large tick chart, just so I can draw the geometry on the tick charts as well. And now we're also making it down to the bottom of this trend line here. Delete, delete, edit. Okay, so there we have it. Just wanted to kind of give another good example of how all of this ties together for obviously very accurate trading, anticipatory trades. So anticipating the moves. And for me, that's really what it's all about. I know people actually teach the exact opposite of that. And you may as well be playing the roulette wheel, you know? So this is about the only way that I've found to really have an edge. Every other so-called edge that I've seen is really, you know, very, very slight, if even truly an edge at all. But this is obviously very legitimate methods. Okay, so with that, I'm going to wrap it up for this video. Otherwise, I'll just start rambling. So if you have any questions, let me know.